Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this one we're going to be covering three things, hopefully. We're going to be covering, first of all, clamping the Y rotation, clamping the up and down rotation with looking so that you can't flip over yourself and like keep moving your mouse up. You want to stop when you're looking directly up and directly down, or you can actually choose if you want to stop at like 80 degrees either way. It's up to you. I'll explain that when we get to it. We're also going to cover the thing I was kind of going to do last video, but I didn't get around to doing it, which was making the actual damage based on distance, so we can have like a fall off distance, and then the further away you are, it does less damage, unless of course you set the fall off distance to be the same as the max damage. Like, you can obviously make it so there is no fall off distance. It's up to you. Anyway, we'll get into that, and then finally we'll get on to making the weapon automatic, or well, semi-automatic, whatever. Basically making it so we can hold down and shoot. And then I guess next video we can actually handle ammo, but in this we'll just make it so if we hold down we can then shoot repeatedly based off our fire rate. So we'll get into that. I want to start by saying thanks to the donators on Patreon. Thanks to Paul Robinson, Phil Baum, and Wesley. Anyone else who wants to help support, the link is in the description below. You get access to this project and all my upcoming projects like this. So apart from that, let's get into it. So first things first, obviously we're at the point where we can look around, click to shoot, deal damage, and you can press 2 and you change to a different gun that does more damage. So we have different stats on guns. Now the actual gun swapping, how we end up making that with like picking up weapons and having like a scroll thing, maybe that'll come in future videos, but we've already got 3 things to do this video. It's just a case of plowing through, making progress. There's nothing we have to do in a particularly specific order. So right now we're going to go into the, I've already got my scripts open. So the first thing we want to do the clamping. So basically camera controller. Here is where we set the rotation of the camera, because this is local rotation of this transform. The script is on the camera, so this handles the looking up and down, whereas left and right is rotating the actual player's body, but up and down is just the camera. Now currently we set it to that value, and it's negative, so it's not, because if we put it as just positive, when we move the mouse up it'll go down, when we move the mouse down it'll go up. So you can actually alter that if you want inverted controls, but we want it just up to go up and down to go down. But the problem is this value here can be anything. We want to clamp it between, now clamping just means limiting, so we give it a min and a max, and what it'll do is it'll set the value, it'll stay the same value if it's anywhere between the min and the max, but if it's above the max it'll set it to the max, and if it's below the min it'll set it to the min. So what we want to do is, on this line before that, or wherever you want, just before it, we have this current looking position, which we actually have stored up at the top, and here's where we affect it. We want to clamp the Y of it. So we want to say the current looking position dot Y is equal to, then we can use a math function from the math library. So mathf dot clamp, and as you see it takes in the value that we want to clamp and then the min and the max. So what we want to clamp our current looking position dot Y, so the thing we're actually setting, we want to clamp it between and in 2 values, min and max. So what we can do is we can have a we can make it an integer because you don't really need floats. Public private in max look rotation. Obviously I know what that means. So we can set it to negative max look rotation, comma max look rotation. So basically if we set that to 90, it'll be straight up and straight down is the max and min. Then mine, if it was 85, it would be slightly less than that, and I'll show you that now. So if we go back into Unity and go to the player camera, which is on the, well, there it is, player camera script. So we're going to get a new variable that pops up in a second. Now we want to set that to, I'll set it to 90 now, and we'll go see if it works. Hopefully it should. So if I press play, we can look around and we look up. I can't, if I keep moving my mouse up, we don't actually end up looking over the top. We just stop at the top. If we look down, we stop at the bottom. There's like a barrier there almost. I can't look further down than that and go back on myself. Now if I actually went and changed that to like 80, for example, I can look down, but I can't look directly down. It actually stops before that. Like for example, if I set it to 45, it stops it right down like that. Actually, if I set it to 0, for example, we are now locked on this axis. Don't know why you'd want that, but I mean, that's how it would work basically. We clamp the Y to be 0. But we want it to be about 80 maybe. So we can look down, but not literally down straight to the point below us, and not up straight to the point. You know, you want to get it basically there, but not all the way. So it's slightly realistic, because in real life, when you look up, you don't actually tilt your head to the point where you're looking directly up. I mean, you can if your neck's not bad, but most of the time you don't do that. So let's leave it on 80. So make sure just to set it out of here. So that's the clamping done. Task 1. Task 2 is to do the damage. So if we go to the gun script, the weapon handler, sorry, this is where we handle it. We get the data here on the thing we hit, and this is where we deal some damage. So what we actually want to do on here is we want to work out. So if we go on our gun script, we have a minimum damage and a maximum, and then the range. So what we want to do is we want to take the actual range over the maximum range. If it's we want to take the minimum range over the maximum range. So what we'll do is we will say, well, we can actually just do it here. We only really need to care if we hit something to deal the damage. So what we can do is we can store a float here. So we can call it normalized. Is it S in English? Nah, it'll be Z. I don't know. Maybe it's just American Z. I don't know. That's right, it's for an S. Normalized range or distance. So what we'll say is that is equal to, I couldn't think of a good variable name there. That is the distance that it actually traveled. So we can say what I hit dot distance, so the distance between the ray and where it hit, over, I don't need to put this in brackets, so we take the distance over the gun dot maximum range. And what that's going to do is, so if we shoot at our maximum range, if the thing hits right on the max, this will return 1, or set it to 1. If we hit it, well, basically the maximum range will never be 0, so we don't have to care about dividing by 0. And then the shorter this distance is, the smaller this value will be, because it's the obviously the numerator and the denominator. So the bigger this is, the bigger the output is, and the lower this is, the lower output is. And it can go between 0 and 1. It can actually go above 0 and 1, well, above 1 and below 0, technically, I guess. So what we want to do is, once we got that value, we want to say, so long as the normalized distance is less than 1. And the reason we say that is because if it's greater than 1, it means the distance that we actually hit it at is greater than the max range, which means we don't want to do damage. So if it's a less than or equal to, technically, we'll say less than or equal to. The only way it could be less than 0 is if it was actually a negative distance, which we can't get. So it's fine, that's fine. So yeah, if it's that, then we deal damage. And the damage we want to deal is, we want to get rid of this maximum damage. That was just a placeholder thing. So we want to do a maths function again. So we have to do mathf.lerp. And we pass in the 2 values and then the t, which is how far to go through it. So the start value. So the start value is our max damage, because as we get further away, we go from max to min damage. So we'll say current gun dot max damage, comma current gun dot min damage, and then the value you want to go between that is between 0 and 1. As we know, this can't go below 0, and we only get this called if it's less than or equal to 1. So we'll just say normalized distance, because this oh, what have I done wrong here? Cannot convert float to int. What needs to be an int? Okay, so this returns a float, and we're dealing damage with an integer. So all we just really want to do is then say, well, we could do another math thing around it to floor to integer. It depends if we want to. Yeah, we'll just do that. Math f dot floor, or you can do ceil. So floor rounds down, ceil rounds up. Is round just a thing? Yeah, just round to int. Rounds to the nearest integer, and we pass in a float, and that is our float. Okay, there we go. So, oh, have I not gone off brackets? You've got 3 brackets. Okay, because we got 1 for this part, and then the lerp, and then the actual function deal damage is there. So we're rounding the value that we get between our maximum and minimum as we get further away, because as we know, we want to do the max damage if it's close up and the lower damage as we get further away. Now theoretically this should work right now, so let's go test it. Let's go pick one of our guns, for example. So we go assets and scriptable objects, guns. We got a pistol. So the maximum damage is 35. Wait, so where's the range? 25 units. So that's quite far. So we shouldn't really feel the fall off that much. So let's go and shoot this guy. So if I go right up to his face, technically if I was 0 units, it should deal 35 damage. So let's go. I mean, the minimum damage is 5. So really, if I went 25 units away, now I'm not going to run 25 units away. The point is, if we go really far away, we should notice that this deals like barely any damage. We might actually be out of the max range there. So this is about the max range, and as you see, when I shoot, it does a lot less damage than when I was straight up in his face. It does a lot less damage. So that works, basically. That's proven it works. So now it's up to you to tweak value numbers, but obviously as you get further away, you do less damage. Now you might want to tweak the max range, because for a gun, that's not actually that far. So you tweak the range if you want, but there we go, it works. So that's 2 tasks of the video done, and we are 10 minutes in, so I can definitely cover the next thing. So the other thing I wanted to cover is making a weapon automatic. So pistol won't be, but the other gun, I don't even know what I made. It was a sniper. I don't know. We'll have a I am not a gun expert. Where am I looking? Scriptable objects. Now we might actually want to make classes that derive from gun, that are like automatic and semi-automatic and all the different types of weapons. I mean, people that are watching this might know more about guns than me, but I know a little bit. Now the thing is, we want to have it so that when we shoot, in reality, we want to handle that in the gun script here, so that each gun script can deal with its own way. We want the automatic weapons to fire differently when we take input than the other ones. All we want to do is use this weapon handler to kind of like tell the scriptable objects that we're shooting, but we don't want the actual shooting really to go on in here. Now obviously we can get some values here, like the camera's transform or whatever. We can pass that into the scriptable object. Even though scriptable objects are just assets that are in your down here, you can still write code in here that is ran. You just can't have a void start or void update, because Unity doesn't call those methods on here because it's not derived from mono behavior. But we can have code that gets called every frame that gets passed into here, which handles its own stuff. So like the way I'm imagining we should do this is by having let's create another script. So if we go back to, well, let's first of all go to the gun script. So no matter what gun it is, it should have a function for shooting. And how it works is whenever we click, we can call the function in here. But the thing is, some guns will want to know every frame the mouse button's down. So in my opinion, what we should do is we should have 2. Well, when should we call it? I'd say, because we only want some guns to work whenever it's actually a mouse click down, like the mouse is down that frame. So we could have 2 functions in here that so we can have a public virtual void, and we'll call it on mouse down public virtual void on mouse hold, for example, right? And how that'll work is in our scripts that derive from this, they can handle that differently. So if it's a gun that only cares about clicking, it can use this one. If it cares about that one, it will use the other one. The reason why we kind of have to have both to like listen for is because otherwise like we need to send when we hold down, basically. If we go to, we could have an enum in here for like what kind of gun it is, whether it's like cares about one or the other, but then it's basically the same as having this. I would just do it in here. So I mean, if someone else has a better solution, obviously feel free to leave that solution or suggestion in the video description, comment, sorry. But I'm going to go with this for now, and it'll work, and then we can obviously build upon it. So obviously we want to do raycasting in here. But actually, no, we don't. We don't really want to do raycasting in here, do we? We want to just have the update where we check for shooting, and let's cut this code. Actually, no, let's leave it here, and we'll just I'll paste it in here for now just to put it somewhere. Okay, I know it's going to give us errors. So when we press mouse down, we'll say current gun dot on mouse down. and then we can say if input dot get mouse button 0 current gun dot on mouse hold, and then we'll need to pass some data into that. So we need to know we need to have quite a bit of data if we're handling it inside the scriptable object. So we need to know the camera to raycast from, so the camera's position basically. So what we want to know is we want to know a vector-free camera pos. We want to know a transform. The thing is, this weapon handler isn't on the camera, but we're on about transform.forward relative to the camera. So actually that was kind of wrong anyway. So we'll do, we don't need to know that, because if we've got the camera's position, we can just get the camera's forward vector, and we need to know current gun, just current gun basically. So we'll pass in the gun. Actually no, sorry, we don't need to know that, because we're inside the gun script, so we have all that data. So actually we just need to know the camera's position. So we'll just pass in camera pos. Why is it not like that? What did we call it? Camera transform, sorry. Why? I don't know why it recommended that. It's a vector free, so we want no, we want a transform. Sorry, transform. So that's right. And then we can here say camera pos dot position, camera pos dot transform dot forward, and then that's fine. Yeah, we need to then take that in here as well. So we don't want to really handle this in here, obviously, because this, I'm just going to cut this out again. We just want to override these functions inside the, so we'll call them public abstract void. Public abstract class. What abstract means is that you have methods like so. Let's just go back. It was fine how it was. I'm just overcomplicating things for this. Just leave it as virtual voids. We can call those functions anyway, and now we make in our scriptable objects scripts weapon. So we have gun. Let's just create 2 more. We'll say automatic and manual. Like so. Okay, automatic will derive from gun. Create asset menu, file name is equal to automatic gun, comma, what I put it in gun. So we can put this now into guns / gun. I mean, that shouldn't really, it doesn't really need one anymore. So we'll just say guns / automatic. So that means that on the menu, it's going to, I need to actually say this is a menu name equals that. Okay, and then we can override, so we can say public override void on mouse. So it's automatic, so we care about on mouse hold, and we can put some code there. Then if we go to our manual, we can basically just do the same, but call this automatic, call it manual, and call it gun / manual. Alright, and then on mouse down, I think it was called. Okay, and then we can shove in the code. Oh, damn it, I've lost it now, haven't I? The code for doing the raycasting. Okay, on mouse down, we know the transform, so we can just say this is manual whenever we click, so that's fine because we want to have this. I mean, maybe we'll have a max fire rate for this, but for now we'll just have it as fast as we can click. So we'll just say raycast hit what I hit. I mean, you know what? I kind of want to go back just to grab the original code anyway, because it'll make it much faster rather than me trying to remember exactly how I had it. Because obviously, if you're following along, then you're presumably going to have the same code that I had. So I'll actually just take the same code that I had originally. So the way I did it was we had a raycast from the raycast hit that gets stored, and we say if physics.raycast the camera pos dot position, because it's transform, camera pos dot transform dot forward out what I hit, because that's where the data goes, and we'll do math f dot infinity. Then we'll say I damageable is equal to what I hit dot collider dot get component. Now I've already done this bit obviously, so you can get this when I zoom through it. Then we say if damageable does not equal null, so if the thing we actually shoot is damageable, then we'll say damageable dot deal damage, and then this is where we had the calculation for the damage drop off. So to do that, we will have the mathf dot lerp between gun, so we got maximum damage, comma minimum damage, comma normalized range, normalized distance, which I will calculate here. So we have float normalized distance is equal to what I hit dot distance divided by the maximum range. And I just spelled that wrong. Minimum damage. What's wrong here? Oh, yep, the good old mathf dot round to int. Otherwise, it will keep it as a float, or it might at least. And then we'll say if normalized distance is less than or equal to 1. Boom. That's how we had it. Now that's how we want a manual gun to work, but for an automatic we want it basically to be the same. So let me just copy that across. The difference is we want to have a fire rate. So an automatic will have a public float fire rate, and whenever we hold the mouse we'll also say we want to store the private float last time fired. And what we can do is we can then say inside here if time.time, which is the total time you've been running, minus last time fired is greater than 1 over the fire rate, so 1 over the fire rate, then we can say last time fired is equal to the current time that we are in the game, and then we can do all this stuff. So this fire rate is how many shots per second that it fires. And theoretically, if I've not screwed up, that should all work now. And I'm hoping that it does. So let's go to this weapons in the Scriptable Objects. Go to the guns. And then, as you see on here, this uses gun and this uses gun. But what we can actually do is we can say, for example, we can change the script. Actually, no, it's not letting us now, damn it. Usually you can just change that. Maybe you have to be in debug mode. Yes, alright, gun. We can change the gun to actually be automatic, and then turn it off debug mode. And then we can, the fire rate, let's say we want 5 shots a second, which obviously, I mean, that's not that much, but we're just changing the pistol for now. So if I shoot, it shoots, and if I hold down, it actually does 5 a second. Whereas if I change this, and I just shoot, it doesn't actually work, because this doesn't actually have any code in it, because it's not a, like if we go back to debug mode, we have to now set the sniper. Now obviously the pistol might be automatic, it might not. If we go back to the scriptable object for the sniper and we manually set the gun to be manual, and then we go back. It doesn't need a fire rate. We're just going to go off how fast we can click. So if I go this, click, if I hold down, it just shoots once, click, shoots again. Whereas this one, if I hold down, it actually shoots that fast. So anyway, we've covered quite a lot of this video, and it's probably dragging on, so I want to end it off now. If that's okay. Obviously, leave comments below of what you want me to cover coming up. If you haven't already liked, subscribed, then obviously that means a lot. Join our Discord server, link is in the description as always. But apart from that, thanks for watching, and goodbye.